Hello everyone and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Notorious Dub and today I'm going to be giving you guys the 6 biggest tips to help you guys improve your aim in Valorant. Developing your aim is a hot topic right now because we're seeing a ton of high level and pro play going on where these insane shots and bursts of greatness just shine through, creating insane highlight clips that everyone wants to be able to produce. But the highlight reel plays aren't something you should be directly training for. Those insane plays are the combination of a ton of great habits and incredible technique when it comes to your aim. And tightening up all of those little things is what's going to make the biggest difference in your play and allow you to have those great moments shine through. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today to help you go from bottom fragging to climbing those leaderboards to the top. But as always, before we get too deep in the video, we have to go over our question of the day. And today I want to ask you guys, what is one thing that drives you crazy in Valorant? Now personally, I love Valorant, and at this point, there are just a few things that get under my skin on occasion, and the biggest thing is whenever I tag someone with a bullet and they continue moving and headshot me while they're running to cover. This happens because whenever you hit someone with a bullet, it now slows them down and counts them as having walking speed, and your bullets are actually accurate whenever you're at walking speed. But on their side, they're moving as fast as they can to get to cover because you called them out in a bad spot, and just because you hit the body instead of the headshot, they now have that little bit of opportunity to get that headshot off on you. But even though it is pretty rare, it feels so bad whenever it actually happens. But maybe you guys don't mind it. And I'm sure either way you have a ton of other things that trigger you instead, which is exactly why I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments down below what it is that drives you crazy in Valorant. Alright, so first and foremost, I think everyone agrees at this point that you need to be doing some sort of practice every single day, whether it's an aim training routine on Kovacs or Aim Labs, both of which we have great guides for on this channel if you want to check those out, or just practicing in the range, or just a nice warm up and cool down that you like to do in deathmatch. Either way, you need to be doing something every single day. This is because it's been proven among a ton of different games and ton of different sports that practicing 1 hour a day for 7 days is way more beneficial for skill development than a single 7-hour gaming or training session in a single day. This is because it takes time for your brain to ingrain patterns, rest the central nervous system, and develop myelination. And at this point, you've probably heard that you should be doing some sort of training every day, but this is the time to start. So feel free to go to one of our aim training or aim routine videos, or develop your own, it doesn't really matter, but a 15-minute aim training routine is going to be a huge step up in your gaming and performance. And even on those days where you don't feel like playing Valorant, you can still log in, get your aim training done as you're waking up or going to bed, and then move on with your day. But developing that consistency is key to linear growth and not plateauing and stopping your improvement. But remember, if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. It's also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. Next up, and arguably the most important thing I want to stress in this video, is to stop overpeaking angles. And the reason this is so important is because in Valorant it seems like overpeaking and Ferrari peaking is an epidemic that spans all of the ranks, and it's causing you to lose a ton of fights because your time to kill is way higher than it needs to be. And when we talk about aim, it's less about how Hiko can whip his mouse around when he gets in terrible positions and fight his way out of them, but it's more about when he can peak angles and hit headshots insanely fast with such consistency like he does. Whenever you're peeking corners, I see way too many people continue swinging angles one after the other, never slowing down and waiting on their brain to recognize that an enemy is in their field of view before they slow down, correct their crosshair, and then fire. But the average human reaction time sits somewhere around 200 milliseconds. And then you have to slow down even more to stop before you're accurate with your bullet and actually get a shot off. And the reason you watch someone like aceu or tenz peek a corner and kill an enemy before you even realize they were looking at someone is because they're slowing down their peek before their brain recognizes an enemy is there. You should be clearing and peeking angles one by one as if you're about to fight someone sitting in that angle that you're peeking every single time. That way your body is already slowing down, and whenever your brain actually recognizes the enemy is there, you can immediately get your shots off because you already took care of that one portion. And this may take a little bit longer to clear angles, but it is way worth it in the long run because your time to kill is going to plummet as a result of this proper peeking technique, and you're going to stop overexposing yourself to multiple angles at once and be able to take fights one at a time. So stop waiting on your brain to tell you what to do and react. Always peek angles as if you're about to fight the person in the angle you're peeking, because when you do, you're going to be way faster. But of course, we have to talk about crosshair placement because it's one of the biggest ways to bring down your time to kill. And when used in combination with the proper peeking technique that we talked about earlier is going to be way more important than the point and click aim that we're about to get to. Now, crosshair placement is simply keeping your crosshair on the enemy as much as possible. And with that, you use your movement to give yourself free kills. Because even at the highest level of play, your aim will never be perfect and completely consistent. So giving yourself the least distance to move your mouse is going to decrease your time to kill significantly and greatly increase your aiming consistency. And crosshair placement looks two different ways. There's the much safer way to go about crosshair placement that is always going to be good, but not going to be optimal. This is when you swing an angle and your crosshair just is on the inside of the corner that you're peeking. That way, as the enemy comes into your field of view, you can guarantee your crosshair will at least be close to the enemy. And this should be your go-to whenever you're not completely familiar with the angle or area that you're peeking in, or when you're clearing off angles or angles that you don't really expect but need to clear anyway. Like if you're walking up B-long on bind, you should constantly have your crosshair on the closest corner of the entrance to garden so you can guarantee your crosshair near the enemy if you catch someone off guard or if someone catches you off guard coming up to peek that area. And then the other form of crosshair placement is the pre-aiming style, where you're completely familiar with your area, and you're predicting now where your enemy is going to be playing by visualizing it, and you're clearing those angles out one by one very methodically and stopping as you get there. Here, you should be swinging every possible angle an enemy could be playing and putting your crosshair exactly where you think the enemy's head is going to be before you actually see it, right beside the angle they could be playing. This way, you're perfectly prepping yourself to hit the shot and you're swinging the angle perfectly at the same time, stopping your crosshair so you can immediately move it and correct it to where you need to go. And this should be your go-to whenever you're playing by yourself or with one other person and taking it nice and slow, making sure you don't die and you have that best chance of getting the kill. And it's also great for when you're coming up on congested areas like showers on bind, where you can clear out every little angle one by one without risking overpeaking into multiple spots. And working both of these crosshair placement styles into your game is going to be the key to drastically reducing your time to kill. And next, let's talk about developing your point and click aim. And the best way to develop your raw aiming ability is to realize that there are two types of aim: wrist aiming and arm aiming. And everyone is going to be using a combination of both. If you have a high sensitivity, you're probably going to be mostly wrist, and low sense players are usually going to be mostly arm aimers. But either way, you're always going to be using the other as well, and you should always be training both of them. And a very simple way to do this is to just set yourself up in the practice range, turn on easy bots, and focus hitting your headshots by only moving your wrist. Then you can turn around and do the exact same thing by moving only your arm, but this way you're developing your ability to do both and ingraining that muscle memory. The key to being hyper consistent in your aiming ability is to always be taking fights that are in comfortable ranges of motion for your arm and wrist aiming ability. And by training both your wrist aim and your arm aim, whenever you're using them together in game, you will have a much better developed range of control, and you'll be hitting shots much easier and more consistently because you'll be much more familiar with that range of motion. And people love to say they're a wrist aimer or an arm aimer, but the truth is everyone is a combination of both. And it's the synergy between both of those movements that creates consistently, and the goal is to make both your arm and your wrist as coordinated as possible whenever it comes to aiming to be as accurate as possible, so don't neglect one by thinking that you're only going to be using the other. And another huge factor when it comes to developing incredible aim is to make sure you're focusing on accuracy over speed. The speed will come over time because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. We see people like Tenz with lightning fast aim and insane grid shot scores, but it's not because he can move his mouse at insane speeds. We all can move our mouse at faster speeds than he does in grid shot, but keeping that accuracy is the problem. And by focusing on having smooth movements to your target in straight lines and stopping right when you get to the target will be you developing those good habits that you will then speed up over time, over and over and over. You don't hit fast shots because you can move your mouse fast. You hit fast shots because your muscle memory is so ingrained in your brain that you can execute that flick and that micro correction flawlessly without even thinking about it. And that's when it becomes an automatic response and seems like lightning fast reflexes. Your time to kill on opponents is going to be drastically increased if you focus on hitting fast shots and you over flick and have to micro adjust back, or you move your mouse suboptimally in a crescent shape to get to their head or body. Or even when you just focus on hitting fast shots so much that you delay your reaction time by focusing on making the initial movement as fast as possible, instead of just letting your body react correctly and start the flick as soon as you see the enemy. After all, aiming shouldn't be an intentional thought that you have in your brain, it should be a reaction. And the best way to develop that reaction and speed it up is to give yourself a good foundation of good habits that your brain can then speed up and be able to rely on effectively. And finally, you have to stop crouching so much. And when I say stop crouching, I don't mean completely stop crouching, but stop crouching for no reason. Now, we see pros and high level players crouch all the time whenever they get into fights, but you don't realize how much of an impact the crouching has on your aim, because the difference is, pros have come from other games and they spend thousands of hours developing the ability to seamlessly transfer their sprays into now a crouching spray while correcting their aim and only crouching when they actually need to. The normal person instantly crouches whenever they start shooting, taking their crosshair off of the enemy's head or making them adjust to the enemy's head and being slower, and taking it down to the enemy's chest, making your shots unnecessarily difficult to hit and making those first 2 shots way harder to hit for no reason. Not to mention, you're also making yourself slower to get back to cover after you stop firing because you have to take that time to stand up before you can move quickly as well. And the only time you should be crouching is when you get caught out in the open and you're actually in an extended fight. You shouldn't be crouching when you're shooting your first shots because you're throwing yourself off and increasing your time to kill. The crouch should only be used as a recoil control tool, where you crouch to pull your crosshair down and keep yourself on target with your bullets. So, stop crouching out of habit and only crouch when you need to. But remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. But what is your guys' best tip for improving your aim and decreasing your time to kill? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn those notification bells on, because we here at SkillCapped have a ton of comprehensive premium guides coming your way that you're going to want to stay up to date with so you can stay ahead of the pack. But as always, I want to thank you for spending this little bit of your day with us, and I'm Notorious Dub, signing off.